Hi everyone, Timothy Dunn here. We're into law number 12 of the 48 Laws of Power by Mr. Robert Greene. Now, law number 12 says use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. The subtext here is pretty interesting. It says one sincere and honest move will cover over dozens of dishonest ones. Open-hearted gestures of honesty and generosity bring down the guard of even the most suspicious people. Once your selective honesty opens a hole in their armor, you can deceive and manipulate them at will. A timely gift, a Trojan horse that will serve the same purpose. Now, not that we want to go ahead and get into the dark side of this concept, but this is very useful because one of the things that we're probably not doing or giving away our power is we're not being as amicable as we could. So one of the things it's saying is that we need to develop a sense of deceptive distraction by using honesty. Okay? If you've ever had anybody that comes to you and says, all right, I'm going to level with you, and they make a very honest gesture or they tell you something that's a little bit more than you wanted to hear about their personal life, I want you to analyze how you feel immediately afterward. First off, if you had held them with a little bit of suspicion, all right, and they said that, now all of a sudden you see them as being more human and you're starting to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they don't do anything deceptive immediately after they've come across this whole new honest, vein of how they're talking to you, you may actually change the way that you feel about them. And I want you to be careful about that because not only is it telling us to use that in accumulating power, but I really want us to understand how it's used against us. Anytime somebody comes up and puts their arm around us in a disingenuous fashion and says, I just really couldn't do this without you, or I need to really tell you something personal, I want you to think, there's got to be a little alarm clock or a light bulb that goes off and says, why? Not that we need to be distrusting of everyone, but if we're in a corporate environment, remember, this isn't family, it's not about love, it's about power. And you always have to be suspicious of that. And you want to be, I'd say, cautiously optimistic to make sure that you're not caught off guard. Because many times I buy into it. I want to believe the best in people. I want to make, friends, and I want to feel empowered just a little bit by knowing something personal about a colleague. But always remember, with that, you're actually changing the perception of the individual. If they've done something wrong, if they've not held up their end of the bargain, they haven't carried their workload, they haven't done something, if you change the way you feel about them, you're basically just setting yourself up to be hit by them again later on. And remember, leopards rarely change their spots, so you have to be very careful about accepting that honest gesture. Now, it talks about selective deception, and one of the things that it says is selective honesty is best employed on your first encounter with someone. So this means that if you've heard someone and they've come into your department from another area of the company, or they've come from outside the company and they have a reputation, you got to understand that their best chance at making you an ally is right when they first meet you. So if they use that honesty factor, or if they try to bring you close and give you all of this information about themselves, it could be that they're trying to overcome a reputational defect. It also says a single act of honesty is often not enough. What is required is reputation for honesty that's built on several small acts. So what's going to happen is even if they bring in donuts, or even if they do one or two little things, if their behavior continues to be gregarious, or they're trying to reach out to you and you feel it's honest, remember that is a tactic that's used to draw you closer. Very rarely can one just big mea culpa or a big honest gesture win you over as an individual. It's a continued pattern. And again, you have to be on guard to make sure that you're not buying into a personality that can one day turn the dials on you and hurt you or take away your power later. Now, if you discuss an individual with another colleague, one of the other ways that they can gain power from the group itself is to disarm everyone and do something that's very selfless. Let's say they volunteer for a charity or they do something. As a group, there are some people that are going to be taken in by the friendliness or the intimacy of what they discuss. Others are going to be taken in by the grand gestures that somebody does. So you want to be very careful to watch an individual for a good period of time before you make them an ally, because you're going to find the weaker colleagues in your office are going to be drawn by something that's a very grand gesture that might be hollow, and it also, remember, could bring them in and they lose their power immediately to that individual. Now, the reversal in the chapter is pretty clear. It says, when you have a history of deceit behind you, no amount of honesty or generosity or kindness will fool people. So if there's something that people have heard rumors and they don't really know you, that's one thing. But if you are an absolute scoundrel and it's been proven and you've been busted and everything's bad, just no amount of honesty or come to Jesus or anything is ever going to change that perception. But it does say to go further down the rabbit hole. If you continue to play that role and you actually are more brazen in your actions, what happens is they're not going to necessarily like you, but they're going to give you their power just simply because they're going to be somewhat afraid or distance themselves, and you're going to have more control in the environment. Again, on these reversals, very few of them are traits that I want to take on as an individual, but it's in the book and I can see where it would work. So it's something that we have to consider. Anytime that you see someone that is a known felon or somebody that's been to jail or somebody that's had a very bad occurrence, they could have changed as an individual. And I've seen it in some situations. But when you're looking at garnering power, anytime there is a reputation of doing something, there is a pall that casts over that individual that the group is going to make a decision and have a consensus about that individual, that no matter how much they do, no matter how much they give, how much they try, they're always going to be, cast in that light. So always make sure that you don't have a reputation for being a manipulator or somebody that's really being disruptive. Again, most of what's taught in this book is how to keep your mouth shut and how to not lose your own personal power, and then how to incrementally increase your power by those that don't understand these. Thank you so much. I hope this has been helpful. We'll get on to law number 13. And again, thank you for taking this journey with me.